You won't want to miss this. Over the years, the Joe Rogan Experience has earned a name for being anything but ordinary. It's known for its unpredictable energy where casual chats can suddenly turn into heated debates, guests speak their minds with no filter, and unexpected topics pop up at every turn. One moment they're talking about deep ideas like human behavior or science, and the next, they're knee-deep in wild conspiracy theories or sparring over politics live on air. And yet, right in the middle of all this chaos stands JoeRogan.com, sharp and always ready to jump in. He has a unique way of cutting through the nonsense, with blunt honesty and perfect timing. Just when it seems like the conversation might go completely off track, Joe steps in, calls things out for what they are, and brings the focus back. That's part of what makes the show so compelling. He doesn't let things drift too far, but he also doesn't shy away from the tough stuff. It's not just another podcast, it's like organized chaos, and Joe is the steady hand that holds it all together. In this episode, we're taking a closer look at some of the most intense, surprising, and downright unforgettable moments from the show. Those times when Rogan's calm presence and quick thinking truly stood out. Whether it was an argument on the edge of blowing up or a moment of truth hiding in the noise, Joe knew exactly when to step in and make it count. So if you're someone who enjoys raw, unfiltered conversations that go places most shows wouldn't dare, this is right up your alley. Make sure to stick around until the end. You'll be glad you did. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell. If you're into bold discussions and real talk, there's plenty more. Where this came from,
The idea that we argue about the Second Amendment, like, let's let constitutional lawyers, I think, discuss a lot of those things, and we should all understand that and be curious about it. But our Constitution is also silly. Like, let's remake everything. Like, let's have that conversation. There's so much better that we can do. Have a serious conversation about what kind of guns and bullets people can have. Not that they can have them or that they can't have. Like, that's the conversation. That's where we should be right now. Everything gets regulated.
But the gun thing, the most part about the messiness of the gun thing is that even if you made guns illegal, even if you said you can't have any bullets, you'll all go to jail. There's so many guns. You're not getting them all.
That's Pete Dominic for you, a political comic who doesn't just push the limits, he tries to blow right past them. If someone wants to challenge the Second Amendment, that's their right. We can have that conversation all day long, but starting the discussion by saying we should rewrite the entire Constitution over one issue, that's not being brave. That's just careless. Even the most extreme voices on the far left haven't gone that far. And frankly, let's hope they don't. The Constitution isn't some old brochure you toss when it feels inconvenient. It's the backbone of our democracy. The document that's shaped this country for over 200 years. If there's something you disagree with, fine. Work within the system, push for change. But tossing out the whole thing because of one part you don't like, that's not how a stable nation moves forward. You don't tear down the whole house just because you're not a fan of the curtains.
You do it.
Yeah, that's the question.
That's the most important point. There's already 330. There's more guns than there are people, so what do you do? So, by the way, I think you buy as many as you can back for sure. You spend a whole bunch of taxpayer money. Just help. By the way, there's a ton of people in a bind right now that have a rifle, but like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to afford my insulin. Let me get rid of this AK-47 to live another month. You buy some guns back. It's a good expenditure of money. And then melt them down and turn them into furniture for people.
So if you wanted to do that without changing the Second Amendment, like you just have a buyback where you just offer people the opportunity to make some money by giving their guns up.
Well, the Second Amendment has been interpreted wrong by the Supreme Court, in my opinion.
If you're in the market for something simple like a kitchen table or a stand, don't stress over it. Just go to IKEA, got decent stuff at fair prices. But if you're feeling a bit handy and want something more personal, head over to Home Depot, pick up some lumber, grab a few basic tools, and build it yourself. Make it a fun weekend project. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's about making something useful with your own hands now. Shifting gears a bit, let's talk about Pete. When he showed up for that podcast, it was clear from the get-go that he wasn't there to actually talk. You could tell right away he came in with an agenda. His goal wasn't to have an honest discussion, it was to argue, to push buttons, to spark drama. No matter what Joe said, Pete was ready to push back. It didn't matter if it made sense or not. He was just looking for a reaction. There was No real depth to anything he said. No genuine curiosity, no effort to listen, just endless performative noise. And honestly, you could see it wearing Joe down. He started off trying to keep things civil, but you could see the patience slipping away. It's tough to stay calm when the person across from you isn't interested in a real backdash and dash forth dot at the end of the day. People tune in to these conversations, hoping for real insight, or at least some honest opinions, but with Pete, all they got was someone more interested in creating tension than having a meaningful talk. And that's a shame, because when podcasts go off the rails like that, everyone loses done.
The main issue is definitely the guns and the bullets in them.
Well, the main issue is the person that's capable of shooting people with the guns and the bullets.
No, it's the guns and the bullets.
The guns and the bullet are inanimate objects. Without a person pulling the trigger, we're talking nonsense here. They're not going to shoot themselves.
It's a healthcare issue, and it's so extreme. It's really, if you want to know the answer to healthcare issues, you should talk to public health experts. They have those answers. They have the research, but
wait, hold on. What research on what?
Well, they don't have enough research on. They don't have enough research on gun violence.
Well, what
unfortunately,
are you talking about then?
I'm talking about if you want to know the solutions for what is impacting and creating death by any measure, accidental death.
Right, but we're talking about gun violence, right?
Right.
What healthcare professionals have the solutions to gun violence?
And just like that, Pete completely lost the plot. He started rambling, going in circles, and contradicting himself left and right. It was like he was performing more than actually trying to make a point. It didn't take long for the audience to notice. Joe's listeners weren't impressed. They weren't quiet about it either. The comment section lit up. One listener summed it up perfectly. "I was listening on my podcast app, then opened YouTube just so I could dislike the video. Ouch." Another said, "I really tried to give the guy a chance, but he just kept digging a bigger hole." You could tell people wanted to like Pete, but he made it nearly impossible. But believe it or not, Pete's mess wasn't even the wildest part. That came when Kurt Metzger suddenly took over the conversation with a rant so off the wall, it felt like he wandered in from another show entirely. There was no build-up, no lead-in. He just swerved into his own bizarre topic without warning. Everyone else looked completely lost, like they were trying to figure out how they ended up in the middle of someone else's monologue. The whole thing was chaotic, confusing, frustrating, and a little awkward to watch. What was supposed to be a real conversation turned into a circus. And by the end, it left a lot of viewers wondering why they even tuned in.
There's that whole joke thief shit there. I'm like, listen, I was there, and also I know comedy, and I know better than you jerk off at home. So if I tell you, just think I know better. I'll just put it that way. Maybe that's arrogant, but I just been doing it for 20 years, and you never had the balls to get on stage. So I think I just know better. They're outraged.
You're fighting with someone who's not even here. Nobody even knows what you're fighting over right there. You just started some joke thief fight. No one has any idea what the you're saying.
All right, guys, is when I defended Amy.
Right.
Amy, and I had people like lecture, and I'm like, don't presume to tell me shit. The same reason I became a comic. I could do that. So but at least I did it. You know, if you get on stage and do it, I'll give it to you. But these people think they can do your job.
But hold on a second. In their defense, they're looking at a film that shows time after time bits that
Gavin made to specifically her because she said I play a racist Republican.
What?
The little YouTube video where they took movies in the show, which by the way, she doesn't write the show. It was ridiculous.
A bit of background to set the stage. Around 2015, rumors started popping up online that Amy Schumer might have been lifting material from other comedians. It all started on Reddit, where users began noticing some uncanny similarities between her jokes and ones they'd heard before. At first, it seemed like just internet speculation, but by 2016, things had escalated. It wasn't just online chatter. Any more well-known comedians began posting subtle and some not-so-subtle tweets suggesting that Amy had borrowed a little too heavily from their work. Then came the YouTube videos, detailed side-by-side comparisons that didn't paint her in the best light. The clips showed joke, setups, and punchlines that were almost identical to bits from other comics. Amy responded by calling it a case of parallel thinking, saying, sure, maybe some of her material sounded like others, but it wasn't intentional. According to her, once her team noticed the overlaps, they removed those jokes from her sets. That explanation might seem reasonable if that's really how it played out. And that brings us to Kurt Metzger. He was a writer on Inside Amy Schumer, her sketch comedy show on Comedy Central that ran for 5 seasons. Naturally, he came to her defense, and you can understand why. His reputation and professional ties were closely connected to hers. In many ways, defending Amy meant defending his own work, so of course, he doubled down, brushing off the criticism and pushing back hard against the accusations.
Here.
Well, I was trying to bring up why they were going at me. That's why.
But the problem with what you're saying is they have evidence. They're looking at one bit, and it's exactly the same as another bit.
If I look at the evidence and I come to a different conclusion, let's go with my conclusion because I was there.
What about due process?
And the guys who are saying it,
there's a due process guy.
That's not enough. That's not enough. That's not enough to convince someone. Oh, dude, just trust me.
Do you think we in the writers' room?
Isn't that like some authoritative sheriff type shit? Just trust me.
Hey, I'm not going to them.
The sheriff.
I'm not going to them. They're coming to me.
Honesty, it was hard to even understand what Kurt was trying to do. The lead of the show he helped write was facing serious accusations of joke theft real claims, with side-by-side proof out there for everyone to see, and Kurt's big defense. Pretty much just, trust me, I know what I'm talking about. That's not a real argument. That's just crossing your fingers and hoping people believe you. And yelling it into a mic doesn't make it any more convincing. If anything, it makes you look more unsure of yourself. That's what happens when someone doesn't have solid facts, they get louder, hoping volume will cover for a weak point. But that approach doesn't work with Joe. He didn't get flustered or take the bait. He kept calm, laid everything out logically, and explained exactly why Kurt's take didn't add up. It wasn't about shouting or ego, it was about making sense. And by the end of it, it was pretty clear which one of them had actually thought things through.
They see the evidence, right? You have to be real clear and non-confrontational when you're handling something like that.
But, dude, I won't. First of all, number one, the larger issue is I never should be on social media talking to any of the at all, explaining it. I don't owe any of you, anybody listening, if you have a question